Hi, everybody. It says I'm live, so I'm just going to take a leap of faith and jump right in. Okay. I do tend to sort of move around in what I'm talking about at any given time. Um, I like crime. Well, I don't like crime. I like the discussion about extraordinary crimes or curious misdeeds, I suppose, unsolved cases, trials, that kind of thing. And so it may look as if I move around from politics to criminal activity, but not really, because even when I do talk about politics, it's usually related to crime. And why is it related to crime? Well, for one thing, the Department of Justice, for really probably what is the first time that has been so easily observable, there has been perhaps true, what do they call it? Lawfare. Now, is that a certainty? No, I don't think it's a certainty. But Alvin Bragg has done some curious things. I think the most recent is the situation with Daniel Penny in New York. There was a similar case as his, where a bystander stepped in, stopped a guy who was mentally ill and threatening others, being potentially dangerous, and the guy died. And that man did not get prosecuted. He was African American. But Daniel Penny was absolutely prosecuted. And the guy that he protected others from, the guy had something like over 100 episodes where he had been arrested threatening others, physically threatening others, being violent on the subway in the streets of New York. He was schizophrenic. He had some serious problems. And yet with Daniel Penny, a military man, he had the book thrown at him, and it was a manslaughter charge. And, he could have conceivably gone to prison for the rest of his life. And so it's curious, some of Alvin Bragg's decisions. And I myself believe that we should be a nation of laws, and we should follow the United States Constitution, and that we must follow the laws that are on the books, right? So that is why it seems like sometimes I talk about politics, and it's not politics. It's really about the curious things related to legal issues in politics. And there was recently in Tennessee, of all places, there was recently another one of these episodes where you have the Department of Justice of the United States of America, the Biden administration. You have the Department of Justice coming down on local police in a way that is shocking. Like, this is shocking. What they did is crazy. This story is not over. It continues to unfold. And this chief of police, he is very vocal that the information, the evidence that the federales, the information, the evidence that the federales confiscated, was actually evidence that would be used against the federales, the Department of Justice, in a court of law. That's crazy. That's like saying we're going to put the fox in charge of the hen house. It doesn't make any sense. And yet it played out here in the United States of America, in Tennessee, of all places, home of Sebastian Rogers, home of Summer Wells, these extraordinary cases where kids have gone missing and the cops behave in a way that just defies understanding or explanation. So let's see what Chief of Police Sean Taylor has to say about his department and the sheriff's department being raided by the Biden administration Department of Justice. Let me make sure I've got my sound all straightened out too. Hope you guys are all doing well and you're getting ready for the holiday season, preparing for a very Merry Christmas. All right, everything's on. Okay, here we go.
I'm Assistant Chief Sean Taylor with the Millersville Police Department in Middle Tennessee. Many of you may have seen my video last week regarding the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation raiding our police department and my personal residence. They came and they seized evidence regarding corruption that we had locally that tied into corruption nationally, and they took all of our files so that we are unable to complete these cases. The cases that we've been working on affect every American. They affect us in the mortgages, fraudulent mortgages, human trafficking, narcotics trafficking, and many other crimes. We have crisscrossed the United States talking to state attorney generals, senators, congresspeople, and numerous law enforcement officials throughout the United States. We've identified a major corruption that's transnational. It involves the BRICS nations and China and investment companies and fraudulent mortgages on homes here in the United States in very key counties and key states. It goes into the election integrity and fraud, and it's creating a geopolitical shift within our political system. This is a multifaceted attack from a foreign adversary who is paying off our local municipal, county, state, and federal politicians to keep from coming to light.
Wow.
We are moving forward with this case in other states and other arenas, even though they have taken our files and our information. This is very important to us. When I say us, I mean we the people. It's time that we the people come together. It's time that we stop allowing ourselves to be segregated by our own government. No matter what race you are, what creed, or what religion you are Americans. We need to stand together as Americans and demand accountability of our elected officials.
Now, I want to interject something here because I think this is so interesting. I have long been attacked for being a conspiracy theorist. And I, embrace that and say, well, no, get it right. I'm a conspiracy realist. Okay. I'm not going to be shamed or humiliated because I can read an article or I can find information about various things happening and then say, that seems kind of curious. I wonder if these things are related, right? And so it is not a surprise at all to find out that this man, Sean Taylor, is being called a conspiracy theorist by the United States government. So my warning bells go off right there. I'm like, okay, they're dog whistling. They're telling people don't listen to Sean Taylor because, he's crazy. He's insane. You remember the old movie with, what's his name? What's his name, Bill? Mad Max. Mel Gibson. When Mel Gibson played in the movie called Conspiracy, and he is presented as sort of like this schizophrenic or manic guy who has all these conspiracies about all these bad things that are happening. He goes to the FBI, the Julia Roberts is the FBI agent, and he goes to the FBI and he's always trying to tell her, oh, they're coming, they're doing this, they're doing that. And they present this conspiracy theorist as a complete crazy nut. And that was the beginning of when someone starts talking about things that the government may be doing, call them a conspiracy theorist, and then nobody will listen to them. Shame them and embarrass them. make people believe that they may be crazy, and then no one will look at the information that they have found. So are there crazy people? Yes. But I'm highly skeptical about TBI coming in, it's a state level FBI, right? They're acting as an extension. I'm skeptical of them coming in, interfering with multiple investigations that this department has, and then comes out and says, oh, well, he's a conspiracy theorist. You know how those people are. Those people are crazy. We shouldn't listen to them. Right up till that point, I was like, wow, that is crazy. Wonder what this guy did. Let me learn about it. But the minute that they say, oh, he's a conspiracy theorist, then I'm like, okay, this is something else. Maybe Sean Taylor has a real story. Because when the U.S. government begins pointing the finger at individual citizens and saying, don't listen to that guy, he's crazy, he's a conspiracy theorist, that's when my wild speculation sort of takes over.
It's time for this corruption to stop and for us to have our country back so that we know we leave it in the good hands to our children, our grandchildren, because if we don't stand up and do this, we will no longer have a country to hand over to them. I'd like to send a special thanks out to Mark Fincham. He wrote a very good article that all of you can go and read at yournews.com regarding the information that I'm talking about tonight. One of the things that happened that really upsets me that the TBI did at my residence was they urinated in my bathtub and tracked urine throughout my home.
Crazy.
To me, that was the government saying, it's on you, America. And that's not okay.
So weird.
It's time to stand up.
It's so weird. Okay. Now then.
Unify. Come together peacefully and demand accountability. Thank you very much.
Okay. So it's not lost on anyone.
Sheriff's deputies who work inside the Wayne County Jail have always had dangerous jobs.
And they're just
okay. Sorry about that. I hope I didn't blow your ears out. Okay, so it's no secret. People definitely recognize that we are living in extraordinary times. There have been some really unusual things that have happened. And, a lot of people like Hunter Biden, his father, Joe Biden, recently pardoned him. And you say, oh, come on, Jules, that's not too crazy. That's his son, right? He's not going to want his son to serve time in jail. So if he gets pardoned for a crime or two, it's understandable. Okay, well, it's not understandable for a president to pardon someone that goes back 11 or 12 years, or that's hard for me to get. It's hard for me to understand. Okay, I do understand you love your son. I do understand that he's valuable to you and that we all make mistakes, and maybe he got caught up in something that was really more political than it was criminal or legal. I'm full support for all of that. I'm good. I'm not going to faint or grab my pearls or my smelling salts because Joe Biden chooses to parole or pardon his son. But I'll tell you exactly when I sort of stopped and said, what? He wasn't pardoned for like 1 year. He wasn't pardoned for things he may have done in 3 years. They went back 12 years. And you go, okay, it wasn't 13. It wasn't 10. What's so remarkable about 11 years, 11 and a half years, that you would literally write a legal document pardoning your kid for, and I quote, anything he may have done wrong? in 11 years? Anything? So if he raped and pillaged and burned down buildings, we're just going to pardon all of that. That's weird. It's not weird that a president would pardon his child. Not weird. But 11 years worth? It also just so happened to be 11 years of the Hunter Biden being involved with Ukraine. Why? What the hell's going on? What the hell's going on in Ukraine? Someone that wants to be non-political and unemotional, a place the size of Texas is receiving the full weight and support of the budget for the Pentagon. Why? What the hell could be there that's so important? I mean, did they find the ark? What's there? It's crazy. It's so crazy. I don't even know what it means, but I do know that the official story is illogical. So I don't pretend to know, but I'm also not going to pretend that the official story for why we are pouring literal billions into a place the size of Texas. Why? Don't tell me it's because we got to defend Ukraine against the big bad Russians. Don't tell me that's not true. Don't tell me that. That's just silly. It's just silly. You are being illogical if you believe that. It can't be. Ukraine is not that consequential. There are other countries over there that are far, far, far more important in terms of like geopolitical power, financial issues. I mean, there's so much more. So what is it? It's weird. But whatever it was clearly involved Hunter Biden, because his dad pardoned him for any crime at all, no matter how heinous. It could be pedophilia, it could be anything. He gets home free. Oh, okay, but you're going to hold Daniel Penny you're going to run a trial against him for manslaughter where he could lose the rest of his life in a prison when all he did was save people that were on the subway. I mean, what happened to rules for thee, not for me? I mean, of course, there's a double, triple, quadruple tier system of law, and there's not supposed to be. That's the thing. We are supposed to be a nation, a government by the people and for the people. Does this sound like the kind of justice you would get or I would get? No, hell no. So it's very curious. Something strange is happening with the Department of Justice, FBI, and whatnot. And I did, related to TBI and this chief of police, I did find an article that was written because I'm trying to get a handle on what actually happened. And this article is not really in support of the chief of police. It's more against him. So I'll just kind of read. Well, let me share the page with you so you don't have to just keep looking at me. Hold on just a minute. Okay, now he's being called right off the bat in the article. He's being called an election denier. Thought that I had a better. I don't want to be on there. Why? How do I get my face off of there? There you go. Okay. So he's being called an election denier. So a well-known Arizona election denier says that his group, working through a conspiracy-minded assistant police chief in Millersville, Tennessee, gained access to a highly confidential federal database that tracks Americans' banking transactions and other financial data. I ask you, are you going to join me in conspiracy theory? Because I don't like knowing that there is an actual department, a true database that cares what I'm buying. I'm a nobody. I live a very small, tiny little life with a very small, tiny little budget. Why does the United States government think they need to know what I'm buying when I go to the store? So this right there, I just sort of went, what? Gained access to a confidential federal database that tracks America's banking transactions. How confident do you feel? Because it scared the hell out of me when I read that. I said, but I thought they hadn't started doing this yet. Like, what are you talking about? But apparently they are. So Mark Fincham, who is the election denier in Arizona, Mark Fincham pushed lies about the 2020 presidential election and waged an unsuccessful campaign for Arizona Secretary of State in 2022, made the stunning admission during a series of recent interviews with far-right podcasters and in a press conference staged in Las Vegas to support Millersville Assistant Police Chief Sean Taylor. And that's the video we just watched of the guy that said that the TBI peed in his bathtub. Taylor's department and residence were raided last month by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation following questions raised by a News Channel 5 investigation. And here's a quote. There's a system called FineSyn where we are actually able to track money laundering, Fincham said 2 weeks ago in a press conference to which only far-right podcasters and conspiracy theorists were invited. Stop. If you're going to be the news, be the damn news. Just the facts, please. Why all of this? Only far-right podcasters. Quit. If NBC or ABC showed up to cover it, they would have been there. So probably the mainstream media news simply had no interest in what was being said, and that's why it turned out to be who it was. FineSyn is the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, a database operated by the United States Department of Treasury that tracks otherwise private financial transactions to help law enforcement counter money laundering and other financial crimes. Public disclosure of FineSyn data is a federal crime. In a separate podcast interview in mid-September, Fincham repeated his claims about his group having access to Fincham's confidential financial data. Until we started raising a ruckus in Tennessee, we had access to Fincham, legitimate access through law enforcement channels, he insisted. But amazingly, we hit somebody and suddenly that access has been shut off. Far-right podcaster Pete Santilli. Now, Pete Santilli, I hadn't heard his name in a long time. He used to be one of the biggies, like one of the conspiracy type far-right podcasters. Hadn't heard much from him lately. He did spend some time in jail for some stuff. Pete Santilli said, yeah, it's called pay dirt. You saw something they did not want you to see, right? And Fincham said, all right. The former Arizona state representative and current state Senate candidate promised public disclosure of the information gathered by Taylor when we are ready. It's going to get really uncomfortable for some people because we already have the receipts. We already have the receipts, Fincham claimed during the Las Vegas event. Neither Fincham nor Taylor responded to News Channel 5's request for comment. News Channel 5 Investigates discovered Fincham's remarks in videos posted on Rumble and other far-right platforms in the aftermath of the TBI raids of the Millersville Police Department and Sean Taylor's home on September the 4th. Those raids followed a months-long News Channel 5 investigation that exposed Taylor's many bizarre conspiracy theories and explored how those often far-fetched beliefs have affected the department's approach to policing. Millersville has a population of 6,000 people. This is a small town, y'all. This is such a crazy story. It's just north of Nashville. Fincham, who the court sanctioned for groundless efforts to overturn the 2022 election, introduced the assistant chief in Las Vegas as lead analyst for the Election Fairness Institute to examine campaign finance fraud and public corruption. He has also described Taylor as chief investigator or lead investigator for the Election Fairness Institute. Election Fairness Institute is a nonprofit created by Fincham to push his election skepticism. Also, Barack Obama yesterday came out and said that the GOP cheated in the election, and now he is interested in looking at fair elections. So now Barack Obama has become an election skeptic, or is he a conspiracy theorist? I don't think he's any of that. I think he's smart and he's thinking and he's making commentary just like these guys are. It's a private sector racketeering investigation, basically, that we've been engaged in now for like 2 years, Fincham told Far Right Podcaster. In an online post, he called it a private sector political money laundering investigation. According to Fincham, Taylor was investigating why certain candidates lost political races where those people should have won. Races that just didn't seem to make sense when you looked at the polling that is in one way, and then suddenly somebody wins by a half a point in the other way. And we have seen that. We've seen lost House seats in California. They just keep counting. I don't know where they keep coming up with all these votes, but they just keep counting. It's awfully strange that when we started trying to follow the money through FineCan, my agency was immediately cut off. Taylor agreed during the Las Vegas gathering where he and Fincham were joined by controversial pedophile hunter Craig Sawyer. Back in August, Millersville Police Chief Brian Morris revealed to another far-right podcaster that the TBI had cut his department's access to the federal FineCan system. The TBI has declined to comment. They're not going to comment because there's clearly an investigation that's going on. Experts tell News Channel 5 that the Treasury Department routinely monitors FineCan system for unusual activity, and those alerts are what led to an agency losing its access, and that makes perfectly good sense. In fact, Mark Fincham's recent claims about how Taylor may have used his law enforcement credentials to tap into the FineCan data on behalf of Fincham's group raises questions about possible violations of the Bank Secrecy Act. With private individuals, there are almost no circumstances. With private individuals, there are almost no circumstances under which that can be done. In fact, I can't think of anywhere that it is legitimate, said consultant Eric Kringle, founder of SLK Compliance. Kringle has investigated financial crimes for almost 30 years, including 7.5 years with the Treasury's FineCan program. Federal law makes it illegal to disclose FineCan data to the public for a good reason. Yeah, because it's our personal data. What I'm choosing to buy at Walmart is my business, not anyone else's. The reports that come into FineCan from financial institutions contain all the kinds of personally identifiable information that we don't want out in the world about ourselves. Account numbers, social security numbers, certain identifiers. It is an enormous identity theft risk for anyone who is the subject of a report, meaning an investigation. For example, there are suspicious activity reports, SARs, where bankers are required to report certain unusual activity that might hint at anything from bribery to credit card fraud to possible terrorist financing. Those reports are intended for law enforcement eyes only. It is a banker's concern about certain activity, and obviously that could be both embarrassing or flat out harmful to a person's reputation, their business, and otherwise, so we guard it carefully. Now, this brings me full circle back to my videos that I've done over the past 7 days, where I'm talking about YouTubers gone wild, right? How many of you have watched one of my videos on the YouTube, what I call troll wars or bitch wars, where you've got one YouTube creator lashing out and fighting against another YouTube creator, and like they're just like out of control. And so because they're so angry and they want to hurt one another, they're doing crazy things like doing background checks on each other, or calling someone's kid's school, or following them so they see where their 8-year-old kid gets on a bus, and then showing video of the bus station, the school bus stop, for other YouTubers to see. You guys have seen that, yes? But I mean, I've made like, I think 4 videos on it maybe. Let's look at this. We're reading an article here about big stuff, about the Department of Justice, federal crimes, federal organizations that are seeking out potential money laundering. And the guy that's in charge of this, he makes a statement and says it is a banker's concern about certain activity that could be embarrassing or harmful to a person's reputation, business. So we guard that information carefully. So you're going to tell me that we hold the United States government officials responsible, that when they do an investigation, they don't take extraneous information that could prove harmful to our reputations or our businesses and make that public, right? To the point that they were willing to raid a chief of police home and office department and take evidence. That's how big of a deal it is. But we got people on YouTube, little know-nothing creators, running background checks, following other creators around, intentionally looking for information that would be harmful or embarrassing to their reputation or business or otherwise. What is wrong with this picture? Most of us will willingly say, yeah, the federal government is probably not to be trusted. Other people will say, well, I think local police probably have some dirty cops and they probably can't be trusted. But wouldn't you think people that are like you, people that are doing YouTube channels just like you're doing, or their subscribers just like you, and everybody's just here for entertainment and companionship, that at least we would have the ethical, moral compass to say, ooh, that information might be embarrassing if it got out. I don't think I want to be responsible for harming someone's mental health by shaming them publicly. I don't think I want to be responsible for ruining someone's reputation or ruining their business. I don't think I want to be the kind of person that would be willing to just reveal this very difficult, upsetting information and destroy someone's life. What's wrong with us as creators and subscribers that we're not stopping to consider our own ethics and morality? That we have so much hate inside of us for other people that we're not willing to stop and make a decision that says, you know, I'm not the kind of person that wishes to destroy the life of another human being, and therefore I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. I'm just going to quit fighting and arguing like a damn toddler and let the other creator go in peace. Even if the other creator said something about me that was untrue or unkind, I'm going to rise above that because I'm an adult, and I'm just going to leave it alone and let it die down. So Kringle agrees, that if a banker sees something and says, well, this looks odd, so I better turn this over for investigation, that doesn't mean that anybody that is law enforcement should be able to access the FindSyn database and try to get dirt, let's say, on their wife that they're divorcing or their next door neighbor that they hate. The federal government, law enforcement, the big guys are saying, yeah, we don't do that. We protect the data, the information. We're here to stop crimes, not commit crimes. So isn't it ironic that YouTube's creators and subscribers who are here to discuss crime and criminal behavior, they're actually engaging in criminal behavior? Stop investigating each other. It's bizarre and weird and creepy and strange. Stop. All right. FindSyn's official website says the unauthorized disclosure of suspicious activity reports is not only a violation of federal criminal law, but it undermines the very purpose for which the suspicious activity reporting system was created, which is the protection of our financial system through the prevention, detection, and prosecution of financial crimes and terrorist financing. The unauthorized disclosure of suspicious activity reports can compromise the national security of the United States, as well as threaten the safety and security of those institutions and individuals who file the reports. And I am going to say this, okay? And you guys have enough information now that you can Google this stuff. And, if you want to continue to read about Sean Taylor and the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation and Arizona's Fincham and election crimes and all that, then you can Google it and read about it. But my point here, tying this all together, is are you emotionally stunted if you find it difficult to ignore someone who has a negative opinion about you? Is it optimal for you and the rest of YouTube to overlook if someone doesn't like you? Do you feel like at some point someone in the mix needs to try and be the adult, right? So if you feel motivated to run a background check on a creator or a subscriber with the sole intention of shaming them, destroying their job, ruining their marriage, hurting their children, it's probably a better use of your time for you to go find a therapist than to pay for a background check on a person who exists to you only online, that has no effect on you in your real life, your day-to-day living. Don't try to hurt other people simply because you think someone else isn't the right kind of person. You don't, that takes a level of arrogance that is just shocking. You don't get to say how other people should live. People are people, and they operate effectively in their environment, or if they don't, then their family members, their friends, their law enforcement get them back in line. It is not your job, simply because someone doesn't make the same decisions you make, doesn't have the same opinions you have. You don't get a license to destroy them simply because they're different, they live a different lifestyle than you do. The big question is, if you don't like them, if you don't like their lifestyle, if you don't identify with them, then why are you wasting your valuable time even watching their channel? It's odd. Now, it is true that people who suffered trauma in childhood, they seem to be attracted to trauma in adulthood. So maybe if you're going around YouTube looking for these channels where they're screaming and yelling and people are cussing each other and they're revealing private text messages and they're trying to bring everybody down, you got to ask yourself, why am I attracted to that activity? Why do I want to be a member of those channels? Don't I have any other interests besides the destruction of another human being? It's a real question to ask yourself. All right. That, my friends, is the end of this tiny little live. And so I think to end it, I'm going to play my little short, tiny little like Christmas introduction that I'm having a terrible time trying to get it uploaded because of certain limitations and such. But I'll go ahead and end it here. I'm going to be back. I'm going to be back to speak on Sebastian Rogers because we have seen some events in the last 48 hours or so. About 48 hours. And I will be back tonight to talk about it and address it. But for now, I just kind of wanted to, number one, show that the big boys, the feds and local state are all arguing and fighting with one another, all about, do we allow access to information that could be used to destroy another person, while we little YouTubers are doing exactly the same thing. And maybe, with it being the Christmas season, this is a really good time to stop and ask yourself, I don't think I want to waste any more of my few years that I have in the world. I don't think I want to waste it trying to destroy other people. I think I'll make use of my YouTube platform and try to at least talk about entertaining, interesting, or funny topics, and just give up the personal destruction of other creators and subscribers. Things have gotten weird.